Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Season 4 is here. That of course means we have a ton of patch notes to go over, gameplay changes, weapon changes, everything in between as we break it all down. If you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here or if you're part of the 54% of viewers watching who aren't already subbed, every day I got you covered with all things going on in COD. So feel free to hit that sub button and turn on those post notifications. But let's get into the update for season 4. Of course, we got our playlists. We'll go over those week by week as they come up in the future, but we'll have a mix of Fortune's Keep and Rebirth Island throughout the season. This week though, it is only Caldera and Fortune's Keep to obviously show off the brand new map. We got a full new battle pass 100 tiers live as well. I'll have a separate video up here in just a little bit going over the entire pass, so stay tuned for that. We have a brand new event, the Mercenaries of Fortune event, and that's going to be live from today all the way through July 7th. There's various challenges for this and various rewards, some of which include weapon camos, which is very, very exciting. We've never had actual camos available as rewards before. There's 2 of those available. So honestly, well worth jumping and doing those challenges if you want these unique camos, because obviously they're only going to be available for a certain period of time. Golden Plunder is going to be live today. Basically just plunder, but to the extreme, more cash on for every kill, but also more cash to win the game. The player counts for this are 46 for solos and duos, 45 for trios, 40 for quads. However, I was able to sit in on a call with Raven earlier on this week, and they said that they are planning on increasing the player count over time. This is just to allow players to get familiar with the map, and then they'll end up increasing in the future. So we are going to see a faster paced Fortune's Keep that'll be in almost in unison with the Rebirth style of gameplay and that pace of gameplay. We also have most wanted contracts removed from plunder. For the maps, obviously Fortune's Keep, we've talked about this plenty over the past week. This brings forth some new different in-game options like the sequencer grenade, which is basically like a numbers grenade. If you throw it at somebody, it'll cause the numbers to flash on their screen like back during Verdansk. We have the black market supply run contract, which requires you to go to a black market buy station. You can get some special rewards like the sequencer grenade, the Nebula 5 minigun, Foresight in there as well. Also, you can get the mercenary cash extraction event, which gives you a ton of cash for extracting that while they're trying to get that off the Fortune's Keep map. We also have various Caldera updates that we've talked about before as well, with Storage Town being introduced, the micro POIs, the new bunkers. We have less vegetation, 50% less vegetation actually, which is pretty huge. The fighter plane is going to be back as well, but in its nerf state. Then also weapon trade stations are coming in season, and those will be placed all across the map. For gameplay, the armored SUV is actually going to be debuting here in season. It's going to get a nitro boost as well, which is pretty interesting. The EMP grenade is dropping. That'll disable HUD for 6 seconds and vehicles for 10 seconds. Broken ATMs are going to be debuting on the map. That allows you to get various cash drops from those all across the map. And in season, we're getting the portable redeploy balloon, which is pretty cool. For quality of life updates, the in-game loadout create UI selection will always start at the top of the list now. So if you pick a loadout in the pregame and it's your 4th loadout, when you go to grab your loadout in-game, it's going to start at the top. It's going to be a huge muscle memory thing to forget once this update drops, but that's going to be there now. The gas mask animation, break animation will no longer interrupt parachute falling, and that's been updated to align with the previous update from the removal animation. Options added to the settings menu for players to enable the ability to remain in the buy station if you want to buy more than one thing, rather than buying one thing, getting kicked out of the buy station, going back in, getting kicked out. You can just stay in it for as long as you want. Also, it'll give you a number next to the items you already have owned, like the gas mask, so that's pretty cool. Deployable buy stations will now live longer in the gas rather than being immediately destroyed if the gas touches them. Fire sales. Self-revive now have a small cost associated with it, and loadout drops are now going to be discounted during fire sales. That also applies to different supply run contracts and whatnot as well, and I believe hardline too. Infill POI text, they updated that. The out of bounds timer is increased to 10 seconds instead of 5, so you can stay out of bounds for longer now. Gulag audio, this is a huge one, folks. Spectators now have muted footsteps. You will not have to worry about hearing anybody run across the top part of the gulag now. Huge update there. The on-screen hit markers, when you're getting shot, those little red rings all across your screen, those will be on screen for a less amount of time now, so they won't be as distracting. Then also the redeploy position. Now you're not going to redeploy as far away from your teammates or your loadouts. You'll be closer to in proximity to all of that. For perks, we have more ground loot perks added in. Ghost, not a huge fan of that. Combat Scout, also not a huge fan of that. I feel like they're just going to increase the usage for those, but also Double Time, Cold Blood, and the Amps. Those are all pretty solid ones to get thrown in there. Perk adjustments, we also have some significant changes here. Battle Hardened. Stun and flash resistance increased to 70%. That's a huge buff. Battle Hardened is now going to be used a lot more in perk 3 and be a lot more competitive with Amped and with Combat Scout because of that. Scavenger is also useful now. Awards an additional $500 in every scavenger pouch per kill, so every single kill guarantees you $500 more. Hardline provides a 25% discount on all buy station items, including loadout drops, so that's also somewhat useful. Then previous adjustments, they changed restock recently, and also the radar jammer. Snapshot was actually nerfed in this update. The radius was decreased down to 22 meters, so a 5 meter decrease there. They're still going to be super powerful and super strong, so I mean, I expect them to still get spammed. And then we get to weapons, and for this, I'm going to head on over to the clean version, cleanravensoftware.com, so that way we can see all these weapon changes way easier. So when we're on this site now, obviously we have the UMG8 and the Marco 5 in the battle pass. We'll be talking about these later on this week. Also new unlock challenges for the M1916, earn 10 single shot elims in 15 matches to unlock that, and for the Nikita, earn 10 kills while moving in 15 different matches. Now, for the weapon tuning, there is a ton of this. As you can see, yes, everything I just scrolled through was weapon tuning. So I'm going to try and not spend too much time on this to make the video somewhat shorter, but we got to get through this. So for the Cold War AK, sustained recoil slightly increased. That's going to be a slight nerf there. AS44, increased the standing hip fire accuracy. For the Falchion barrel, horizontal control was increased. For the 615, vertical control was increased. For the 40 round mags, control was increased. The damage bonus was removed. Damage range increased, velocity increased, and for the Granko 50, muzzle velocity increased, damage penalty removed, so that's huge. And then also damage range was decreased, so AS44 will be looking a little bit more consistent. For the bar, they actually buffed this. The muzzle velocity was increased, that's huge. Neck damage multiplier also increased. On the 30-inch barrel though, control was decreased, visual recoil rather was increased. For the rapid barrel, better control all around, then also the recentering is faster. For the 50 BMG mags, just in general here, for the 40 round, the velocity was decreased, that's a significant nerf. And then also for the 60 round, velocity was decreased, movement speed was decreased, but the range was increased. For the Clouser 40, the velocity was increased, so that's solid. The damage range was increased, that's also solid. Rate of fire multiplier, so the fire rate was reduced a little bit, then the control was reduced a bit as well, but the 40 is still going to be the way to go there. Also for remove stock, vertical control was decreased as well. On the Cooper, the recoil intensity adjusted to account for less reliance on tight grip, so you won't have to use that as much for decent control. Also, the damage was increased as well for long range and close range. That's pretty solid. For the Gracie Rapid Barrel, headshot damage was increased, upper torso damage penalty was removed. Control is better now across the board. Tight grip control provided has been decreased in general, so that's a nerf there. Compressed rounds, nerf for control all around. On the Itra Burst, muzzle velocity increased, upper torso damage multiplier increased. For the Nikita, max damage increased, then also the move speed scale was increased, so that'll be a little bit stronger now. That could actually be pretty good for close range and a sniper support. Nikita AVT will be a top option. On the 7.6254 mags, or 50 round mags I should say, really, movement speed modifier was removed and the reload quickness penalty was added. Then on the 60 round drums, movement speed modifier removed, reload quickness penalty slightly increased. On the KGM40, minimum damage was increased, so long range damage is now going to be better there. On the 40 round mags, the velocity was increased, recoil penalty has been removed, global damage increased, and then also the damage range was increased there, so those will be a bit better. For the 500mm barrel, velocity and control was increased. On the 700mm barrel, damage range was increased, and then also on the burst barrel, damage range and velocity was increased as well. So solid buffs to the KGM40. Is it going to be incredible? We'll have to wait and see. On the rapid barrel though, the fire rate was decreased and the global damage was decreased. On the Reisdorf option here, hip fire accuracy was increased and tight grip is also not going to be as good here anymore. The FFAR actually got a buff. Max damage range increased a little bit. Is it going to be super top tier meta now? Probably not, but you know, it's going to be better than it was before. That's pretty cool to see. On the NZ, the burst barrel, initial firing recoil was actually increased, so that's interesting. Sustained recoil control was decreased, so it's going to be easier to shoot the burst barrel now. I'm not too sure about that one. Burst fire cooldown decreased, and burst fire now supports auto burst mode. Hold fire to continue firing in bursts. So perhaps they're going to fix it from being fully auto. I'm not sure if that's what they're going for there. The Orb Weaver barrel though, the velocity was now increased, so the Orb Weaver barrel is going to be the way to go on the NZ regardless. I wouldn't use the burst barrel anymore because this is going to have better velocity, which is going to be crucial there for long range. For the Orb Weaver custom, visual control decreased, recoil for horizontal was also increased. Ravenwood barrel, ADS initial recoil control increased and hip fire control increased as well. For the Sakura 50 though, vertical control decreased, so those will be a little bit harder to land shots with. Visual recoil increased, so they're going to make the NZ harder to use, but also better for long range for what it's worth. And then also on the MK3, sustained fire control was decreased. Now on the STG, minimum damage, long range damage was decreased, muzzle velocity decreased, head locational damage multiplier and neck multiplier also decreased. So the STG got some significant base nerfs. Also for the Granko 50, vertical control and horizontal control was decreased, so it'll be harder to control that now. For the 760 barrel, muzzle velocity decreased, range decreased, visual control increased, and for the 60 round drums, movement speed decreased. So the STG getting some damage nerfs and some control nerfs that'll make that harder to use. Probably still going to be a top tier option just because it is one of the lower recoil weapons in general, regardless of that slight decrease there by about 5%. I imagine it's still going to be a top pick, but the NZ is looking like it's going to be number one over the STG now for sure. The Vargo got a velocity increase again. Also, the raise time was decreased, so it's going to be faster to ADS. For the VDV reinforced and the Task Force barrel, the control was also increased there. We're partially rolling back some of the adjustments made to the Vargo earlier this year. This will result in the weapon being easier to control and feeling its role to use as an effective AR. I imagine they're going to make the Vargo good until the new Vargo drops later on in the season. For the Volk, the visual control was decreased. That's solid. For launchers, I'm not going to go through the exact specifics here because I don't think anyone's using a ton of launchers, but basically all the launchers got buffed with their outer damage, their mid damage, and their inner damage. This includes Launcher Alpha, which they don't actually name on this site, from Cold War, RPG, M79 Bazooka, the MK11, the Panzerschreck, the Panzerfaust, the RPG, the Pila, the Joker, and the Strela, all better now. I'm not going to use a launcher over any actual secondary though, but if you're trying to, get some explosive kills, it's going to be easier than it was before. For LMGs, the Whitley got buffs all around. Max damage range increased, max damage increased, minimum damage increased, velocity increased. The Whitley could be a serious contender because of that. The Gracie MK9 barrel damage range also increased. For the DP27, velocity increase, same deal for the Bren, same deal for the Type 11. That's going to make them more competitive and more of a contender for long range all across the board. MG42 recoil intensity adjusted for less reliance on tight grip, so another nerf to tight grip there. Max damage increased, minimum damage increased, ADS transition in and out times have also been sped up, so that'll be a bit faster. And the velocity was increased too. On the 890 barrel, damage range now increased, and then also on the 125 round drums, damage range, velocity, and ADS speed all increased as well. So buffs to all the Vanguard LMGs there. For marksman rifles, flinch has been decreased on all marksman rifles by 25%. I wonder if that also includes the car from MW, because that's a marksman rifle. That could be actually very solid for that. M1 Grand upper torso and neck multipliers both increased. SVT lower torso and upper extremity multipliers increased. On the crossbow, the velocity was increased, and on the R1 Shadowhunter, same deal as well. Melee weapons were often falling short of straight up engagements in close quarters. In addition, their movement speeds were no longer competitive with some of the faster, more aggressive weapon builds. As a result, melee weapons have had their swing time and movement speed adjusted positively. So the Katana, the Sawtooth, the Skull Crusher, the Ice Axe, the Sledgehammers in all games, the Wakizashi, the Sai, the Kali Sticks, the Ballistic Knife, and the dual Kadachis all have better movement speed now. Some of them now benefit from aim assist, and also the hits have been changed for all those as well. So some melee updates, surprisingly enough. The amp across the board seems to have been nerfed. Upper torso and lower torso multipliers decreased. The close range damage was increased, but the mid and long range damage was decreased. The Diamati, max damage and min damage was decreased. The Rat from Vanguard, obviously the Empress barrel, max damage and min damage increased, and the rate of fire was actually increased as well. And then for subs, the Armaguerra, max damage, so close range damage increased. That's going to be a big buff. Max damage range decreased slightly though. For the 315 body barrel, max damage increased, range and control decreased a bit. For the Perfetto Custom, range increased, fire rate decreased. For the 550 barrel, control all across the board was decreased. For the Russian short mags, the locational damage penalties have been removed, but it's only a 34 round, so not many players are going to use that. Damage range increased, fire rate decreased. For the 72 round mags, damage bonus decreased, fire rate decreased, control decreased, and for the Bodhi DA, recoil control decreased. The 60 round mag setup that we've been using with the precision barrel is still going to be the best option there, it looks like. For the Blixen, mid damage was actually decreased, the movement speed scalar was decreased, and the ADS movement speed scalar was also decreased. I don't think that's enough of a nerf to really drop down the Blixen much. For the RMK barrel though, velocity now increased, and that was already the best barrel. For the custom barrel, velocity decreased, control decreased. For the Bus TG, velocity increased. For the F3 barrel, control decreased. And then for the 54 round mags, headshot multiplier was decreased a bit, but I don't think the Blixen setup changes that much either. It's still going to be a top choice. For the Mac 10, we got a buff to the Mac 10. Let's go. Minimum damage, so long range damage is going to be better for sniper support now. Headshot multiplier and max range also were buffed a bit as well. For the Owen gun, the upper torso multiplier was decreased. For the shrouded barrel, the max damage range was increased, but the upper torso, lower torso, and lower extremity multipliers were all decreased, and the vertical control was also decreased as well. So, I mean, Owen gun doesn't really change all that much. It's just going to be worse to the multipliers. It's still like a number 3 or 4 SMG, I'd say. PPSH from Vanguard, better control. Also, the Nambu 71 round mag has better velocity. The Sten all damage options were increased here at any fall off point, so that's pretty solid. The Type 100 actually got its lower extremity multiplier decreased. The rapid barrel control is now worse, as is the fire rate. Then for the well gun, the lower extremity damage multiplier was also decreased. For snipers, the following aggressive snipers now adopt the lowest tier of flinch. These utilize the flinch settings that previously only the CAR and Swiss had access to. So now the CAR from Vanguard, the SPR, the Swiss, the Pellington, the Tundra, the Type 99, and the CAR from Vanguard all are having better flinch properties, basically. They're going to be easier to shoot when you're getting hit. Flinch has also been decreased on all heavy snipers by 12%. Then for our last weapon category of changes on the snipers in general, we have some changes to the Gorenko here. Rate of fire was increased, control was decreased, max damage and min damage was increased though. Headshot multiplier increased, torso damage all around decreased. For the rapid barrel, worse control now, worse fire rate, but better movement speed. For the 3-round fast mags, better movement speed. Same deal with the marksman stock. And then for the reinforced stock, the ADS speed is going to be better there. For the 3-line, the ADS transition in and out times were decreased. The 514 barrel has a better ADS speed. Same deal with the 820, the 700, the MN custom, the 700 again, and then also the Vaz carbine. So all the barrels got better ADS speeds. Then for tac rifles, the Cold War AUG. Max damage increased, minimum damage increased. So the AUG from Cold War is going to be pretty solid now. It was already good before. They just buffed that. That's going to bring back the burst meta in a decent way. Updated most universal attachments to bring more options to players. Raven said that things like polymer and hand stop are going to be less ideal now compared to some other attachments, which might be more ideal on general builds, so we don't have to use the same things on every single setup. Muzzles, the MX silencers, vertical control is worse now. The compensator flinch resistance is better. The flash hider time to ADS was decreased. Then also on the muzzle brake, better control and better flinch resistance. For underbarrels, bayonet hits now increased from 2 up from 1. The pistol grip now has a better ADS time and ADS movement speed. The steady underbarrel, better hip fire accuracy and control gun movement while firing speed was also decreased. Skeletal underbarrel movement speed now increased, hip fire decreased. M3 ready vertical control decreased, and also the bipod movement while firing now decreased as well. For rear grips, polymer, the flinch resistance was decreased by 45%. That's a significant nerf there for sure. Hatch grip, vertical control is better, flinch resistance is better, horizontal control is better. Rubber grip, better flinch resistance. Leather grip, better ADS move speed, but worse hip fire. Granular, worse recoil recovery, and then also taped, better move speed, better sprintifier, so that could be very solid on a lot of SMGs. So that was all the weapon tuning. Like I said, there was a ton of it. Now we get into bug fixes, improved rendering performance on console. You love to see that. Fixed an issue where Vanguard weapons will not receive any rotational flinch while using certain optics. Issues preventing 2 successive claymores from downing a player. Issues with post-launch Vanguard weapons where unlocked camos could not be equipped. Jev somewhere is going to be very, very happy to hear that. Hopefully he gets his atomic legitimately now and he doesn't have to do the one camo glitch. They fixed an issue where reticles for Cold War weapons weren't progressing. An issue where if the player was down in a vehicle, using a self-revive would take away their riot shield. An issue with the Astrakan skin for the 9 millionth time. An issue where redeploy balloon platform near runway was floating above the ground. An issue where players get stuck on some cliffs. An issue where an ascender near radio station would cause players to ascend facing backwards. An issue with the M3 Reddit grip on the Nikita. An issue with the 10 times optic on the Type 99. An issue with the explosive fetches attachment on the UGR. An issue with the Marauder flash hider on the Armaguerra. An issue with the Marauder flash hider on the Well gun. An issue where diamond camo challenges for the M1916 did not correctly refer to marksman rifles. An issue with the 5mm laser on the Lapa. An issue where scrolling over the friend rear unchanged finishing move would kick the player from the menu. An issue where the Growling Guardian charm did not appear. An issue where the player would be prompted to install new drivers upon the latest driver installation. And then finally an issue where pre-ordering the Vault Edition on MW2 would not give players the Ghost Legacy Pack. Then lastly, we got our download sizes on PlayStation. It's going to be 21 gigs on Xbox, 27 on PC, 23 if you're a Warzone only player, 26 if you have Modern Warfare and Warzone installed. A huge huge update today. Tons of meta changes, tons of gameplay changes. In the coming days, we'll be breaking down the new meta, the new best class setups, everything you need to know about this season will be right here on the channel. So make sure you're subscribed with those noties turned on. But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. But until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out.